The striker dilemma. Lewandowski or Toney as United's backup plan when Sesko struggles. Welcome to Unite United News, where we debate the tough questions. Hello and welcome back to Unite United News, where we tackle the questions that Manchester United fans are actually asking. Not the questions journalists think you should care about, but the real debates happening among supporters in pubs, on social media, and in living rooms across the world. Today we have a genuine dilemma that the Nottingham Forest game exposed. When Benjamin Sesko is struggling and not making an impact, United have no reliable backup striker option. So what should the club do about it? We have two interesting options to discuss. Thank you for trusting us to break down this debate properly. Now let us dive in. The problem the Forest game exposed. The 2-2 draw against Nottingham Forest highlighted something concerning about Manchester United's squad. When Benjamin Sesko is not performing, when he is having one of those games where nothing comes off for him, United have no proven alternative striker to turn to. Sesko went another game without scoring against Forest. He looked awkward and uncomfortable. His touch was poor. His positioning was not quite right. Gary Neville said the jury is still out on him. And most importantly, Ruben Amorim had nobody on the bench he could bring on to change the game from a striker perspective. This is a problem. Not a crisis, but definitely a problem. United spent £74 million on Sesko, expecting him to be the answer to their striker issues. But he has only scored 2 goals so far. He is still adapting. He is still finding his feet. And in the meantime, United are left hoping that Matheus Cunha or Brian Bumo can play through the middle if needed, even though neither is a natural centre-forward. So the question is valid. Should United bring in an experienced striker who can provide backup to Sesko? Someone who can start games when Sesko needs a rest or is out of form? Someone who can come off the bench and change matches? Someone who can mentor the young Slovenian and help him develop? 2 names have been suggested. Robert Lewandowski, who could be available on a free transfer next summer if Barcelona do not extend his contract. And Ivan Toney, the English striker who is currently playing in Saudi Arabia, but is reportedly looking to return to the Premier League. These are very different options, different ages, different situations, different strengths and weaknesses. So let us break down each one and figure out which, if either, makes sense for Manchester United. The case for Robert Lewandowski. Let us start with Robert Lewandowski. As we have discussed before in a previous article, the idea of signing Lewandowski is not as crazy as it might first sound. Yes, he will be 37 years old next summer. Yes, he is in the latter stages of his career. But the man can still play. Last season, Lewandowski scored 42 goals in 52 appearances for Barcelona. This season, even at 37, he scored 4 times in Barcelona's opening 7 league games. These are not the numbers of a finished player. These are the numbers of someone who still knows how to find the back of the net. The advantages of signing Lewandowski are obvious. First, he would be free. No transfer fee. In a world where strikers cost £50 to £100 million, getting one of the greatest goal scorers of the past decade for nothing is incredible value. Yes, his wages would be high, probably around £430,000 per week based on what he earns at Barcelona. But no transfer fee means United could afford those wages for a year or 2. Second, Lewandowski guarantees goals. Even in a backup role, even playing maybe 30 games instead of 50, Lewandowski would score 15 to 20 goals. That is the kind of production that can make the difference between finishing 4th and finishing 2nd. Between winning a cup and going out in the semi-finals. Third, Lewandowski would be the perfect mentor for Sesko. Imagine what the young Slovenian could learn from training with one of the great strikers of this generation every single day. How to find space in the box. How to time your runs. How to stay calm under pressure. How to be ruthless in front of goal. These lessons would be priceless for Sesko's development. Fourth, Lewandowski has been there and done everything. He has won league titles in multiple countries. He has won the Champions League. He has scored goals in the biggest matches against the best defenders. That experience would be invaluable in a United dressing room that sometimes lacks winners. Fifth, this would be a low-risk signing. United would only commit for 1 or 2 years. If it works out, great. If it does not, the contract expires and everyone moves on. There is no long-term burden like there can be with younger players on 5-year contracts. The downsides? Well, age is obviously a concern. Can Lewandowski handle the physicality of the Premier League at 37? Can he press and work hard without the ball the way Amorim wants his strikers to? Will his body hold up to playing twice a week when needed? There is also the question of whether he would accept a backup role. Lewandowski is used to being the main man. Would he be happy sitting on the bench some games? Would he cause problems if Sesko is starting ahead of him? These are legitimate concerns about signing any big-name veteran. But overall, the Lewandowski option has a lot going for it. Free transfer, guaranteed goals, perfect mentor for Sesko, short-term commitment. It makes sense on multiple levels. The case for Ivan Toney. Now let us look at Ivan Toney. The English striker is currently playing in Saudi Arabia after moving there from Brentford. But according to reports, he is already looking to return to the Premier League. The Saudi experience has not worked out the way he hoped. Toney is 28 years old. That is a perfect age for a striker. Old enough to be experienced and reliable. Young enough to still be in his prime years. If United signed him, they could get 4 or 5 good seasons from him, not just 1 or 2 like with Lewandowski. The advantages of signing Toney are clear. First, he is proven in the Premier League. Toney scored 20 goals for Brentford in the 2022-23 season. He has shown he can do it at this level against the best defenses in England. There would be no adaptation period. He could come in and contribute immediately. Second, Toney would be younger and more suited to Amorim's system. He can press. He can work hard without the ball. He can play as a target man or drop deeper to link play. He is more versatile than Lewandowski at this stage of their respective careers. Third, Toney is English and would count as a homegrown player. This helps with squad registration requirements. It also means he understands the Premier League, the culture, and what it takes to succeed in English football. Fourth, Toney has a point to prove. His move to Saudi Arabia has not worked out. He will be desperate to show that he can still perform at the highest level. That hunger and motivation could make him a valuable signing for United. Fifth, Toney might be available for a reasonable fee. Clubs know he wants out of Saudi Arabia. He might push for a move. That could drive the price down. He would not be free like Lewandowski, but he might not cost as much as you would typically pay for a striker of his quality. The downsides? Well, Toney would definitely cost a transfer fee. Maybe 30 to 40 million pounds, possibly more. That is a significant investment for a backup striker. United might prefer to spend that money on other positions where the need is greater. There is also the question of whether Toney would accept a backup role. He was the main striker at Brentford. He is used to starting every week. Would he be happy being second choice behind Sesko? Or would he expect to come to United and be the starting striker? And finally, there is the Saudi Arabia factor. Moving there and then wanting to leave after a short time raises questions. Was it a mistake? Is his head in the right place? Has he lost something by playing in a less competitive league? These are concerns United would need to consider. But like Lewandowski, the Toney option has real merit. Premier League proven. Perfect age. English. Versatile. Hungry to prove himself. There is a lot to like. Comparing the two options. So we have 2 potential solutions to United's striker depth problem. Lewandowski at 37. Available for free but on high wages. Toney at 28. Costing a transfer fee but younger and more suited to the Premier League. Which is better? Let us compare them directly across several key factors. Age and longevity. Toney wins this easily. At 28, he could be a United player for 5 years. Lewandowski would be a 2-year solution at most. If you want long-term planning, Toney is the better choice. Cost. Lewandowski wins. Free transfer versus paying 30 to 40 million pounds for Toney. Yes, Lewandowski's wages would be higher, but over the length of a typical 2-year deal, the total cost would probably be similar or even favor Lewandowski. Guaranteed goals. Lewandowski wins. His track record is better. His finishing is more reliable. Even in decline, Lewandowski would probably outscore Toney over the course of a season. Premier League experience. Toney wins. He has proven himself in England. Lewandowski has never played in the Premier League. We do not know for certain how he would adapt, though his quality suggests he would be fine. Mentorship for Sesko. Lewandowski wins. Learning from one of the great strikers of the past 20 years would be incredible for Sesko's development. Toney is good, but he is not Lewandowski in terms of career achievements and experience. Physicality and pressing. Toney wins. At 28, he can press and work hard for 90 minutes. Lewandowski at 37 would struggle with the physical demands of Amorim's system. Risk level. Lewandowski wins. A free transfer on a short contract is lower risk than spending 30 to 40 million on Toney. If Lewandowski does not work out, United have lost some wages but nothing catastrophic. If Toney flops, that is a significant amount of money wasted. Fitting Amorim's system, Toney wins. His age, physicality, and versatility make him better suited to what Amorim wants from his strikers. When you look at all these factors, there is no clear winner. Each option has significant advantages and disadvantages. The right choice depends on what United prioritize, what United actually need. Before deciding between Lewandowski and Toney, we need to be clear about what Manchester United actually need from a backup striker, because that will help us figure out which option makes more sense. First, United needs someone who can score goals when given opportunities, not a passenger who just makes up numbers. Someone who can actually contribute when called upon. Both Lewandowski and Toney meet this requirement. Second, United needs someone who accepts a backup role. This is crucial. If they sign someone who expects to start every week, that creates problems with Sesko and disrupts the squad harmony. The backup striker needs to understand they are not the first choice but will get plenty of game time across a long season. This is where both options have question marks. Would Lewandowski accept being on the bench? Would Toney? Neither has much experience in a backup role. Both are used to being the main striker. This is a genuine concern with both options. Third, United needs someone on a reasonable wage. The club cannot keep adding players on massive salaries, especially for backup positions. This favors Toney, who would probably earn £150,000 to £200,000 per week, over Lewandowski at £430,000 per week. Fourth, United needs someone who fits Amorim's system. Can they press? Can they work hard without the ball? Can they do more than just stand in the box waiting for service? This favors Toney significantly. Fifth, United needs someone who helps Sesko develop rather than blocking his progress. A mentor figure would be ideal. This favors Lewandowski, whose experience and achievements make him the perfect teacher. When you look at these requirements, Toney probably edges it. He is more likely to accept a backup role because he needs to rebuild his reputation after the Saudi move. His wages would be more reasonable. He fits the system better. The only area where Lewandowski is significantly better is the mentorship factor. The realistic answer. Here is the truth that many United fans might not want to hear. United probably should not sign either player. Lewandowski is an intriguing option on paper. Free transfer. Guaranteed goals. Perfect mentor. But he is 37 years old. He has never played in the Premier League. He might struggle with the physicality and pace. And paying him £430,000 per week to be a backup striker is hard to justify, even with no transfer fee. Toney is more realistic but still problematic. Yes, he is younger and Premier League proven. But spending £30 to £40 million on a backup striker when United have other positions that need strengthening is questionable. That money might be better spent on a midfielder or a winger. The real answer is that United need to have faith in what they already have. They spent £74 million on Sesko. That is an enormous investment. They need to give him time to adapt and develop. Rushing to sign another striker after just a few months sends the wrong message. What United should do is look for different solutions. Can Cunha play through the middle occasionally when needed? Can Bumo? Can United promote a young striker from the academy for the backup role? These options cost nothing and might work just as well as signing an expensive veteran. If United absolutely must sign a striker, then Toney makes more sense than Lewandowski. He is younger, more suited to the Premier League, and more likely to accept a backup role. But the best option might be to wait until summer, see how Sesko develops over a full season, and then make a more informed decision about whether they really need another striker. What this debate tells us about United's planning. The fact that we are having this conversation tells us something important about Manchester United's transfer planning. Or perhaps the lack of it. When United signed Sesko for £74 million, did they have a backup plan? Did they think about what happens if he struggles in his first season? Did they consider that a 22-year-old striker adapting to the Premier League might need time before becoming reliable? These are the questions that well-run clubs ask themselves before spending huge money on players. Manchester City signed Erling Haaland but kept Julian Alvarez as a quality backup. Liverpool signed Darwin Núñez but had Diogo Jota and others who could play centrally. Arsenal signed Gabriel Jesus and Edin Nketiah as striker options. United signed Sesko and hoped for the best. Now they are discovering that hope is not a strategy. You need depth. You need options. You need players who can step in when your expensive signing is struggling. Moving forward, United need to be smarter about squad building. Do not just sign one player for a crucial position and assume everything will work out perfectly. Have backup plans. Sign players who can cover multiple positions. Build a squad that can handle injuries, suspensions, and loss of form without panicking. This is what elite clubs do. This is how you compete for major trophies. And this is what United need to learn if they want to return to the top of English football. Final thoughts. No perfect answer. So what is the verdict? Lewandowski or Toney? Or neither? If forced to choose between the two, Toney probably makes more sense for Manchester United. He is younger, more suited to the Premier League, better equipped to fit Amorim's system, and more likely to accept a backup role. The transfer fee is a negative, but his age means you get more years of service. But the better answer is probably neither. United should show patience with Sesko. They should find internal solutions for backup striker options. They should wait until summer to reassess the situation when they have more information about how Sesko is developing. The Nottingham Forest game highlighted a problem. But one game does not mean United need to panic and make a big signing. Sometimes the best transfer business is the business you do not do. Sometimes patience and faith in your existing players is the right approach. Lewandowski is a romantic idea. The great striker coming to the Premier League in the twilight of his career. Learning from a legend. But romance does not always translate to good decisions. Toney is a more practical option. But practical does not always mean necessary. Just because you can sign someone does not mean you should. The question United need to ask is not whether Lewandowski or Toney would improve the squad. The question is whether spending money on a backup striker is the best use of limited resources when other positions might need strengthening more urgently. That is the real debate. And that is what United's decision-makers need to figure out in the coming months. Thank you for debating with us. Thank you for joining us at Unite United News, where we tackle the debates that matter to Manchester United fans. Lewandowski versus Toney is a fun discussion. Both options have merit. Both would bring something to United. But both also have significant drawbacks. The beauty of debates like this is that there is no definitive right answer. Reasonable people can disagree. Some will prefer Lewandowski for his experience and guaranteed goals. Others will prefer Toney for his age and Premier League pedigree. And some will argue United should sign neither and trust in Sesko's development. That is what makes football interesting. The discussions, the disagreements, the different perspectives. And we are here at Unite United News to facilitate those discussions with honesty, intelligence, and respect for all viewpoints. We encourage you to share this article with other United fans and get their opinions. Ask them the question, Lewandowski or Toney, or neither. See what they say. Have the debate. That is what football fandom is all about. Whatever United decide to do in January or next summer, we will be here to analyze it, explain it, and help you understand whether it makes sense. Because that is our job. That is our commitment to you. Until next time, keep debating, keep thinking critically about your football club, and remember that at Unite United News, we always give you the analysis that helps you form your own informed opinions. Glory, glory, Man United.